Hello fight fans, welcome back to my channel. I am the MMA Girl Jess. Welcome to my page and welcome to fight week for UFC Perth. I've been away for a couple of days because I've been ill. You may be able to hear in my voice that I'm a little bit ill, but everything's good. I feel a lot better, and that's why I'm sat down today filming this video for you guys, because I could not wait to do my UFC Perth picks and go through this whole card, looking at what prelim fights are not to miss, and of course giving you my main card picks. And it's a very interesting card this week because for you guys in America and over the seas across the pond, you will be watching this very early on Saturday morning. I myself, who lives in France, I'll be watching from midday onwards just because I work. So I can't watch at 9 a.m, 10 a.m. I don't know when it starts. I think it starts like 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. here for the prelim card. And for the main card, it starts at 1 p.m. So the main card, I've booked out some time from work so I can watch the main card. Us European fans, we're the ones who deal with early start times on a Sunday morning. But obviously it's not an early start. It's just a late Saturday evening for us. And I don't mind that. I prefer watching a card that starts at 3 a.m. in France than watching one that starts at 1 p.m. And that means that my Saturday night is completely empty. So I honestly prefer the normal start times. But as you guys may know, when it is not a numbered card, the UFC do not have to put the card on at an appropriate time for the US market. Of course, when it's a numbered card, for example, when they did UFC a numbered card last year in Australia, they weren't allowed to put it according to Australian times. So of course, Australia, you had to watch their main card happen at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And I watched it at the usual time, and you guys in America did as well. But now, obviously, this is a fight night, UFC Perth, so they don't have to put it at the appropriate time for the American market, which means for you Americans and for us Brits or us that live in Europe, it may be better, it may be worse. And in your case, it is worse. But we get through it. We want to watch this card. We want to get this card watched. It's a big fight night. And we have, of course, headlining this card, the Australian native, Jack Della Maddalena, former champion of the welterweight division, taking on the fighting nerd Carlos Prates, who is of course very dangerous and a very good striker. And from what I've been seeing in the videos, I hadn't really looked at the stats or anything, but he's big. Looking at Carlos Prates next to JDM made me realize how big Carlos Prates looks next to a big JDM who towered over Islam Makhachev. That's maybe not a good word, towered over, no. He was bigger and taller than Islam Makhachev. So to give you a perspective, Islam Makhachev next to Carlos Prates, he's going to look small as hell if Carlos gets the title shot. Because I'm talking about title shots, of course, because this is a huge fight. If JDM gets knocked out on Saturday night, or Saturday midday, or Saturday morning for some of you guys, by Carlos Prates, of course that is going to change the trajectory of the welterweight division, because the UFC are just waiting to see how this fight plays out. If Carlos Prates is not able to put away JDM, or JDM puts away Carlos Prates, then no fight is going to be made with JDM nor Carlos Prates in the title picture. Of course, Islam Makhachev is looking for a new opponent. There are rumors that it'll be Ian Gary, but we're not sure of that. But there is also a huge rumor that Michael Morales, who has had some calls, has been notified by the UFC that there's a contract waiting for him to sign. This means that we may be getting Islam Makhachev versus Michael Morales if on Saturday JDM and Carlos doesn't give the outcome that UFC needs to put Carlos in that fight, because Carlos has already done more in the UFC than Michael Morales has to get to the top 5 of the welterweight division. So I believe Carlos Prates, if he knocks out JDM, he'll get the title shot against Islam over Michael Morales and Ian Gary, because he will be more deserving, apart from the fact that he didn't beat Ian Gary. But that's more here and there. The UFC, of course, are looking for money fights. They're looking for big fights. They're looking for fights that will draw the audience in. They're not particularly worried if the next person who has a title shot has lost to the number 3 ranked, because that doesn't matter. What matters is, does the title shot matter to the fans? And will the title shot bring in viewers? So think about it that way. In any case, let's get into this prelim card, and then we'll get on to the main card and talk about all that stuff later. Okay, so here is the look at the prelim card for UFC Perth. In the first fight, we have Jonathan McAuliffe versus Temba Garimbo. Temba Garimbo from South Africa, from Zimbabwe specifically. And I say that because my mother is from Zimbabwe. So it's very special for me that someone from my mother's home country is fighting at the UFC. And of course, if you guys have followed his story, he has a long history with combat sports and getting to the US, getting an apartment paid off by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, no less. So of course, his story is quite inspiring. He's not had only wins in the UFC, and I hope this time around he comes in and he gets the job done. Obviously, Jonathan McAuliffe is very dangerous, so very excited to see that bout happening. We have Colby Thickness coming back, of course, an Australian native as well, with a record of 8-1. He'll be taking on Vince Morales. That should be a very interesting bout as well. We have Gerald Meerschaft, UFC's... I was going to say UFC's bait, but boy, the guy, he can't get a break. He sometimes wins, but most of the time he's fed to new young prospects who will completely tear him apart. So Jacob Malkoon could be his next attacker, or he may be Meerschaft's next victim. Who knows? But that's going to be an interesting fight, to say the least, as well. We have Junior Tafa getting another chance to come back onto a, of course, Australian card. He's from Australia. The Tafa brothers obviously are both very well known in the UFC. As you may or may not know, Justin Tafa, his older brother, has retired temporarily. He may come back, but for now he is on the back burner, retired. But Junior Tafa, he has just moved back down to light heavyweight, and it's not going well for him. He is at 2 or 3-0, and he's not winning. He's lost his all three fights that he has fought at light heavyweight. This is really important for him. Again, in front of a home crowd. He's lost many times in front of a home crowd. So he needs to get this one right against Kevin Christian. So hopefully he will. Kevin Christian's at 9-3. Junior Tafa, of course, is at 6-5. And of course, the last fight on the prelim card, so the featured prelim, is a middleweight bout between Cam Ralston and Robert Bychek. Of course, Cam Ralston is also from Australia. We are Australia heavy, of course, on a UFC Perth card. No difference, no shock here. Robert Bychek is, of course, the old of the two of them, looking to make a statement in foreign soil. Cannot wait for this prelim card. Do not miss it if you can. So that was the prelim cards. Highlights that you should not miss. Basically the whole card. Do not miss the whole card. Let's go on to our main card picks and get the picks rolling, guys. First fight on the main card that we're going over is Tai Tuivasa coming back again after, I think it was 6 losses in a row now. Looking, of course, to get back in the books, in the W books. And he was supposed to be taking on Sean Sharaf with a record of 4-2. And Sean Sharaf had to pull out of that fight. The UFC were not going to let UFC Perth happen without Tai Tuivasa because he's a fan fave. And I'm quite scared for him because he's taking on Louie Southerland. English-born Louie Southerland, who, apart from a great performance at Dana White's Contender Series, has not been able to spread his wings in the UFC. Last time we saw him fight was at UFC London in March, so not very long ago. Louie Southerland coming in on short notice for this fight, so giving more chances to Tai Tuivasa than he deserved. I'm going to give this one to Tai just because he's more experienced, and I'm not giving it to Tai because I feel sorry for his record at all, because that would be completely ridiculous. Louie Southerland is very difficult to fight. He has a really awkward fighting style, and he's an animal. Louie Southerland, despite all the losses he's had at the UFC, before he came to the UFC, he was tearing things up in the heavyweight divisions around the world, in Europe, etc. So I think that will be a challenge for Tai Tuivasa. However, only experience can help Tai Tuivasa in this fight because Louie Southerland has a lot more speed. He needs to dodge those jabs. For me, Louie Southerland, he's at 10-5. Tai is at 15-9. I think Louie Southerland will take Tai to the third round, and either one of them will get the UD. And if I were to choose who will get the UD for Australia's sake, it will be Tai Tuivasa. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that Tai Tuivasa will lose. I don't think he will this time around, but okay. So speaking of the Balkan Bear, we saw him last month as well on the UFC London card. Of course, as I talked to you about, Louie Southerland lost to Brando Pericic, and he's on this card too. Brando is here, and he's taking on Shamil Gaziev. This is a huge fight. 2 heavyweight fights on the main card of UFC Perth is insane. And this fight between Shamil Gaziev and Brando is huge. These guys are dangerous. Both are very dangerous. And yet, the Balkan Bear will win this fight for sure. Brando is definitely a lot more dangerous than he has been showed to be. And I think he's been showed quite a few times by the UFC in the traders and stuff. He looks dangerous, but he's even more dangerous than that. I'm telling you guys. He will tear Shamil Gaziev apart. Shamil Gaziev has a physique that looks very sloppy, and some of his work on the feet looks sloppy too. And I'm not saying he's bad, because he's not. He's on a great record, 14-2. But Brando, 6-1. He's on a tear right now. He's young, he's hungry, and I truly believe he will win on Saturday. Brando will definitely win that fight for me. That is my official pick for this fight. Of course, now we're going to be leaving the heavyweight division. It would have been crazy to have a third heavyweight bout on the main card, but we are getting Marwan Rahiki, who is coming back after his win against Harry Hardwick at UFC Vegas not too long ago, and Harry Hardwick had a real hard time of it in his fight with Rahiki. Rahiki is currently and still undefeated at 8-0, and he'll be taking on Ollie Schmid, who has a record of 4-2. Both men are coming from Australia, both men on home soil, and both men are looking good. The only difference is that Rahiki has a little bit more UFC experience now. He came in through Dana White's Contender Series, had his first fight against Harry Hardwick, as I said to you guys, won that via doctor stoppage in the second round. Ollie Schmid, has not yet fought in the UFC. So UFC level doesn't feel familiar to him yet. He is very well known on the Australian regional circuit of MMA. He's been doing bits on the regional circuit. So all great for him. But Marwan Rahiki is my pick for this fight. I think he'll get the job done in the first and second round. Ollie Schmid, you have a hard time coming for you, and I think that it won't end well for Ollie Schmid. So I'm going to pick Rahiki in the first or second round, a nice KO or TKO finish on the Australian UFC Perth card. Next up, we have Tim Elliott coming back to face the Australian Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg, of course, some say he has now got a bit of a beard, so he's got more aura. I just think Steve Erceg, he's great, but he won't ever have any aura at all. But he's taking on Tim Elliott, who is quite a surprise fighter. He's very surprising. He's got a 22-13 record with one draw. Steve Erceg, of course, still with his 13-4. We've not seen Steve Erceg for quite some time now, and I'm excited to see the improvements he's been able to make outside the cage to translate that in the octagon. And I think with that improvement, he will be a real challenge for Tim Elliott. And I think that Steve Erceg will pull off the UD in this fight against Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott's grappling is elite. We've seen him beat even any Dagestani fighters. He's been around the block and he's done it all. Tim Elliott is very good. But I think on the feet, Steve Erceg is the advantage one here. He has the advantage on the feet. If Steve can fight off those takedowns, keep it on the feet, Steve will get the UD here. I don't see Steve knocking out a Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott will be too wise and cunning to get himself knocked out by Steve Erceg. I think Steve Erceg will just piece him apart, get the UD victory, and walk away. That's how I think this bout will go at UFC Perth. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the return of Steve Erceg, and do you think he'll get the win here at UFC Perth like I do? For the co-main event, we have a fight that I talked about quite some time ago. I believe that UFC wants Beneil Dariush to go on a generational run of getting knocked out. I think that they truly believe that Beneil Dariush is at the point in his career where he can be used as the next piece of the game, the chess game, to test new up-and-coming fighters. And of course, his next attacker, the next person who's going to victimize Beneil Dariush, is none other than Quillan Salkilld, of course, from Australia as well. Quillan Salkilld, who likes to walk around with his fur jackets. He's known for his funny antic. I like the stick he has. He's from Australia, so I'll always like an Australian. He's at 11-1, and he'll be taking on the veteran Beneil Dariush, who is currently at 23 victories to 7 defeats and 1 draw. Now, for me, Beneil Dariush is going to get completely obliterated in this fight. However, it's how he will, because Quillan Salkilld can just as easily submit you as he can KO you. But I think this time around, he'll have to KO Beneil Dariush. So that'll be a second KO in a row. Because if you guys remember, Beneil Dariush got KO'd by Benoit Saint-Denis, a Frenchman, of course, as you may know, who KO'd him in 16 seconds. Brutal KO loss to Benoit Saint-Denis. We'll see what Quillan Salkilld will do with a Beneil Dariush. It won't be as easy as it was for Benoit, because Benoit Saint-Denis for me is levels above Quillan Salkilld. But Quillan Salkilld may prove to us the contrary on Saturday. And I think whether or not it's via submission or KO, I think it'll be via KO. I think Quillan Salkilld will get the victory here in the second or third round of this co-main event at UFC Perth. And last but not least, we have, of course, the main event of the evening. Jack Della Maddalena, former welterweight champion, who just recently lost his belt, of course, to the champ, the champ of all champs, the double champ, Islam Makhachev. But he's facing Carlos Prates, fighting nerd, a man with a cigarette in his mouth and a glass of whiskey or rum or vodka in his hand. Despite all that, he is still dedicated to his sport. He is still dedicated to winning. He has huge ambitions in the UFC, facing Jack Della Maddalena in a fight that will determine your future in the UFC's welterweight division, because you, Carlos Prates, if you win against Jack Della Maddalena via KO, you will get the next title shot against Islam in the summer. Now, Jack Della Maddalena is an elite striker. JDM is a sniper striker. For me, JDM is one of the best strikers in the welterweight division, if not the best. But is he better than Carlos Prates in an all-round sort of situation? I don't think so. I think Carlos Prates does have the edge on JDM, whether it be in the height advantage, the size advantage, even though they'll both make weight fine, but Carlos Prates will be the bigger sized individual against his opponent, JDM. And I think that will come to advantage anyway, and he's just a well-rounded fighter compared to JDM. JDM's not a bad grappler, but I'd say that Carlos Prates is more dynamic. So I'm going to be choosing Carlos Prates, if you couldn't tell, as my pick for UFC Perth's main event. And is he going to get it done? I think Carlos Prates will knock out JDM. And if he does so, the title shot will be one and done. Carlos Prates will get his title shot. So what do you guys think of UFC Perth? What do you guys think of the start times for this card? And who are you picking for your main card picks compared to mine? Let me know in the comments down below. And check out my next video that's coming out in a couple of days, of course. And until then, enjoy the rest of this beautiful, sunny fight week. And we'll see each other in the next one. Bye.